Welcome to the Wolfkeeper, a show that's just about everything that you can maybe think about, everything that you can feel that's inside of your heart. What I need for you to do right now is spend the next hour relaxing. Just stop your day before you go into 12 o'clock. And I just want y'all to close your minds, open your hearts, and relax and go on this journey with me. It's a beautiful place that you're about to go, because I want to make you feel, I want to just open you up and think about some things you never really thought about. Right now, the Wolfkeeper. Come on. Good morning, y'all. Come on. It's the Wolfkeeper show. Get ready. Come on, let's go. Yeah. Woo. Yeah. It's the Wolfkeeper show. Your boy Torriano Sanzoni. Yeah. Chanelli Nell. My boy Tyrone Scott somewhere rocking the Doogie Dogs. Denzel's in his house. Shacky Shack. And for all the people out there that love us, we love you back. Thank you all. Get ready for an amazing show with the Wolfkeeper. Get ready. Here we go.
Originally, dogs would use it to mark their territory. They will, that's how they would recognize each other's scent. That's why they still smell each other's butts as a way of greeting. And so with the time and the different foods, those things will get released naturally when the dog will just go to the bathroom. With the modern foods that are softer, that the dogs eat different stuff, sometimes they don't get to be released naturally, so they get inflamed. So when we see the dog scooting on the carpet or on the grass, that's because his butt is itching because his anal glands need to be expressed, and he's doing it. So sometimes when they say, "Oh, my dog's like scooting on the rug," I'm like, "Well, so you need to clean your rug now because that means he took care of it."
Jorge, I tend to see a lot more smaller dogs and tinier purse-esque dogs doing that butt scoop, which indicates anal gland issues. Is this an issue with big dogs too? Like say 120-pound rot, that's just like a really almost a horse in many ways. Is it across all breeds?
It goes across all breeds, but yes, you're right. Sometimes it's more prominent in smaller breeds. Smaller breeds are more complicated because they have bred down on their size from generations. So everything, when you start messing up with nature, you come into different problems. Like you have a lot of dogs with like flat faces who they're having a lot of like breeding issues, to the point that some breeds they're banned on different countries. Dogs with flat faces like Pekinese and English bulldogs and pugs. They're banned on some countries because overbreeding and selective breeding have gone away, go wrong. The same happened with the little anal thing. Smaller dogs, sometimes they be bred just to be small without taking in consideration other parts of their anatomy, so they could have a little more problems. And usually, most of the time, larger dogs, they tend to be more active and get more exercise. So that helps everything. If you go and walk and jog every day, your whole body is going to work better. But if you're like at the size of a little Maltese and all you do is sit on a couch and watch TV, you get like a human that will be all day on the couch watching TV. You will have mobility problems, and all kind of problems. Correct. I'm trying to stay away from the subject.
Well, I'm a nurse, so that's like the first thing on my mind.
Well, I think this is super helpful for everyone. Because I think a lot of people have been to a family house party or a birthday party, and it's sort of, the older lady that doesn't groom or do much for the dog, and you see the dog like scooting on the carpet, and you're like, what's that? And, now for the listeners and viewers, anal gland issues, yeah?
Correct. That is, sometimes that's the way they resolve it, but if you check and they keep them uncomfortable and you see them biting their tail and going nervous, might be because those glands are a little impacted, and by default that should be taken care by a vet. By a vet if it's a problem. But groomers, we are qualified and trained to kind of check it. So if it's on the bracket where it's just easily released automatically when you put like warm water and a little pressure, it's fine. But if we notice that they are impacted or infected, we send them right to the vet.
And that's
actually the person.
That's amazing, because then that brings upon, because I have short-haired dogs. Tammy, you have a short-haired dog.
Yes, I have a question, Jorge, regarding short-haired dogs.
Hold that question 1 second, Tammy. So, because I just want to point out, before we get to your question, because Jorge's bringing upon some good points. You have anal gland, because Greg, you had never brought Allie to the groomer before.
Correct. So the anal gland work was all done by the vet.
Anal gland work, but then the other thing too, nails, because sometimes people allow the nails to get so long. I was
literally clipping her nails with a regular human nail clipper.
Right. So we got anal, nail, and ears that can easily be done by a professional. I just want to point that out to our listeners, because a lot of times people feel if they have a short-haired dog, they don't need to do that. So, all right, Tammy, go ahead with your question.
Okay, so my question, because I do have a short-haired dog, French bulldog, and I know that obviously if they're, physically soiled, you would need to give them a bath. And I give my dog a bath once a month, but what would you recommend for a dog who, basically is not visibly soiled? How often do you recommend giving them a bath? Or hey,
Tommy, I miss.
Oh, I was saying.
Yeah, but I kind of missed half of your question. Sorry.
Oh, I was saying because I have a short-haired dog and it's a small breed dog. It's a French bulldog. Because my previous dog was a big breed dog. How often do you recommend giving a small breed dog who's not obviously physically soiled? How often do you recommend giving them a bath? I currently give my dog a bath once a month. Do you recommend it more often or less often? Or
listen, I always say when the dog is no longer huggable, give it a bath. It depends on on the activity of the dogs. You know, if you have a house where the dog can be rolling on grass, that's usually a natural cleansing. Now, if you live on 10th Avenue like I live in New York City, believe me, you take the dog for a walk and the dog is filthy. So, you know, it depends on that. What is very important is that dog shampoo are very different pH than the human shampoo. Like our shampoos are designed to remove the oils of our scalp because we constantly produce it. Dogs, they don't produce oils constantly. So their shampoo is actually dirt than our shampoo that is designed to remove dirt, but not the natural oil. So always like the pet shampoo, it is still better than the most expensive human shampoos to use on dogs.
That's a good.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's just like how some people think that they can use human toothpaste on dogs, and it's not.
Correct, and it's toxic.
Oh, which brings me upon another point. That's another reason if you have a short-haired dog to bring them to the vet, because teeth, nails, ears, and butt.
No, but if you can do those things at home, why would you? Like, I cut my dog's nails. I brush his teeth every day. I clean his ears out with a solution. So if you have a dog that doesn't necessarily have to go for those things because you are able to do it, why would you have to take them?
Correct, but you're not taking the dog to the groomer, but you are grooming your dog. So it is not like, correct. So every single dog needs grooming. Who does it is whoever is qualified. Some dogs are, you know, so you are qualified. You know how to do the nails. You know how to use ear products to clean the ears. So you are doing whatever a groomer will do. So you are grooming your dog. So when they say how often they need to be groomed, they need to be groomed a lot. Whoever groom it, and with a mild dog shampoo, you can wash a dog every 4 days.
Yeah, so that's why I didn't know, like, if there was a certain amount that was too frequent. Like, he doesn't, like, if I take him out to the park and he's rolling around, in the grass or whatever, then he'll get a bath after that. But in general, if he's just in the house or if he's just outside in my backyard, which is pretty clean, then he's not really getting, soil. So generally, I just give him a bath once or twice a month. So that's why I was just wondering.
Correct. And then you grab a washcloth. Yeah, then you grab a washcloth in between, and you're like, wipe their bellies.
Yeah. I use the dry shampoo to wipe them down like every day, but as far as actually putting them in a tub, I usually just do that once a month.
Correct, and that's more than enough. And short-haired dogs, they still shed. And
my short-haired dog sheds more than my other dog did. Like his hair is fine,
but they live in like a little nest. So that's what when they say, well, I don't need a brush for my short-haired dog. And I said, yes, you need the right brush. You need a red, curly, and rubber brush. Because what you do with that, correct, that's you strengthen the hair follicles. And when the hair follicles are stronger, they retain the hair much longer. So I don't care if it's a Chihuahua or it's a French Bulldog or a Pug, they do shed a lot.
And I just want to go back, Tammy, what you said earlier, and I said this in the opening, that even though you groom your dog at home, you do a great job at it, and you do teeth and do everything else, to the listeners out there, grooming is a form of training because your dog could be totally great with you doing all those things, but if Jorge or another professional groomer does those exact same task, your dog could totally react. So grooming becomes a way to constantly make sure your dog is comfortable with being touched. If you truly have a dog that's a pet, it's a great way to constantly socialize a dog. As Jorge pointed out, some dogs have anxiety when they're left at a groomer because there's all kinds of different things going on. There's dogs that are there that are stressing. There's the sounds of the blower. There's this new person touching me. Grooming is a whole experience by itself. People kind of trivialize it and make it seem like it's just bringing a dog to look pretty. But for the dog, It's a huge, big experience with a lot of different visual stimulation, audible stimulation, and scent stimulation. Well, I would strongly encourage people to bring their dog to the vet. Jorge, a thing that's going through my mind too.
You mean to the groomer?
I'm sorry, to the groomer.
That is a whole
I'm sorry to the groomer. Jorge, I wanted to ask you too. Chanel, are you still there?
Yes. Oh.
Chanel, are you there?
Chanel's there.
She might be on mute. But I know she brings her dog to the
Can you hear
groomer.
me? I'm here.
So Chanel, I know you bring Bentley to the groomer like every week. It seems like. But
Toriana.
Did
It's
you have
every
you?
month. I was doing it like every 2 months. But then his groomer was saying that he gets mad at.
Right.
So,
and Bentley has the kind of hair that does warrant actual groomer. Like my breed is not necessarily going to need a groomer, a professional groomer, because I can do those same things. But when you have a dog like Bentley who does require a professional groomer, then it does make sense that you would have to take care of like every month or whatever.
Right.
And you have to work in between grooming appointments. Like when you go get your hair done, you don't like just sit there and don't pat your hair and you go to the salon. Or wait, you got the dog. If I don't, I just got a haircut today. If I don't touch my hair in 4 weeks, it's going to be a mess. So, learning how to keep your dog in shape between grooming appointments, is very important. And going back, what you were saying before, is that grooming is one of nature's strongest way of bonding. When you think about, Mama Lion and Baby Lion, how do they connect through grooming,
Yeah.
So grooming is a way that nature shows love. So when you are grooming your dog, that's a moment that you are connecting with your pet emotionally.
I love that.
They don't only see you as the person who feed them, but they see you as their hands-on caretaker. That's why, I make a living, grooming dogs, but I always say how important it is that you groom your dog at home as a bonding process.
There's a boom moment.
Jorge, Jorge, this is leading me to my next question, that caregiving and bonding through grooming are a universal truth. How dog whisperer do you have to be? How often are you dealing with dog aggression, a bite, a scenario where this dog is borderline aggressive issues and you're able to calm him down through, touching? I guess what I'm saying is, how often are you coming into aggression problems, and how often are you able just to calm the dog down and power through it?
Well, when you work at a salon, you're more exposed to it, and you assess the dog. You give the dog a chance. You approach the dog. You give, a lot of time you just let the owners go, and you say, be able to groom your dog. Let you're a new person. Usually, you've got to build a relationship with a dog that is going to last mostly for the length of the dog's life. So, some dogs you are able to build it, some dogs you don't. I've been grooming professionally in New York for like 26 years. If a dog doesn't like me, I'm like, okay, you can go look for somebody else. I'm a little to the point that, I've been working long enough, but at the beginning when I worked at the salon, I had to, and that's where you use all your skills. That's when you learn that you need to connect with the dog. And I always say the first thing you do with a dog before you start working
does, because your grooming has more personal contact than the average vet has with an animal.
Correct. So I always say it's like dancing, you know. When you dance, it's always somebody who leads that dance. And that has to be you, not the dog.
Yeah,
But like if you want to like grab a ball to cut a nail, you don't push you don't pull the leg.
Seems
You
perfect
put the dog,
example.
you lead it into position slowly. It's like you're dancing.
Jorge's
like
Argentinian.
you
It's
know,
tango.
yeah, what?
You're Argentinian. It's tango, right?
Correct. Yeah. So, but you know, you try to make it a dance and not a wrestling match. So, you know, you gotta move with the dog. You know, it's all when you analyze a dog grooming styles, 99% of them they don't have sharp corners. They're all made out of curves. So you gotta think that your movement it shouldn't have sharp turns. You should always move on round, you know, just to keep like a dance with your dog, just to keep harmony, just not to get scared. You know, you gotta focus. You know, that's what I do. Every time I work at a salon, I never allow them to have a TV. I'm like, you know, you have to focus. Your focus has to be on the dog and you both, because they know when you're focusing on them and they will give you that attention back, you know. So it's you know, you gotta love, I always say, you know, when talking about business, I say the way that I spell the T about the grooming business is with 3 T's. You know, it is Twitter, tips, and teeth. I'm like Twitter because, you know, social media is the new way of word of mouth. Tips because you got to get everybody happy to make extra money. And teeth because a dog will critique you with their teeth if you're doing something wrong.
Amen.
So you got to be on point.
Hey,
you got to be on point. Because I'm like, an owner can like criticize you and yell. A dog will criticize you with their teeth. So, you know,
I love
you
that.
got no choice but be on top of point.
Jorge, you said a boom moment for me, a big explosion moment when you said grooming is a way to show love, and that's so true. And when you said that, it brought me with this concept that the more people that can groom your dog is the more people that are showing your dog love. So there's a great reason to go out and get your dog groomed, and you can even have multiple groomers that just to constantly having your dog touched and socialized to avoid your dog ever being in a situation of attacking a human. But Jorge, what I want to dig into, and I know we talked about this, you and I talked about this before, is you being from Argentina down there growing up with dogs. Because you're like me, you've been dealing with dogs since you were a child. Can you just, I want everyone just to know how deep you really are into the game, because you're just not a groomer that went to school and then all of a sudden you start doing this. This is something, you don't just groom dogs, you show dogs too. Can you tell us a little bit just about your background in Argentina and your dog showing experience and what brought you to New York?
Let me start from the very, very beginning. I was a very fat baby. So when my mother was pregnant, she needed to be like resting most of her pregnancy. And she had a little chihuahua that slept on her belly the whole 9 months. And my grandmother used to say, get that dog out of there. That kid is going to look like a dog. And my mother was like, no, that little dog rested on. So I always say that I was born with the heartbeat of a dog, because I felt the heartbeat of that chihuahua as much as I felt my mom's heartbeat.
I love that.
She wasn't
That's so
in bed,
cute.
you know,
so
most of the dog. And of course, my grandmother
right
was
now.
like, dog didn't need to be outside. That kid is going to look like it's going to have a dog
So
face.
cute.
But since I was a baby, I had a connection. And I always say yes, because before I was born, I could feel the heartbeat of a dog. So all my life, I was very, very connected. Don't put a cat near me, because we never got along. But I was always, so when I was 11, you know, I had this lady who was almost part of my family, who lived right around the corner from me. And every single day, after I would run from school, do my homework, and by 3 p.m., I will be on her house watching the stories on TV and brushing dogs because she bred Shih Tzus and Pekingese.
Nice.
So, and I was 11, about 11. So I started there every single day. I will go there from 3 p.m. to like 8 p.m. at night when I needed to be back home and just be working with dogs. And then, I got older. I was the youngest judge at a national dog show of Chihuahuas when I was 16 years old. I had studied and I became a judge, and I was about 16. So then, then I start, breeding here and there. I would have a show dog, and then, I would have puppies, keep some. And so I've always been around dogs. Then I moved to New York, picked one word in English when I moved here. And I was like, I'm going to be one delivering pizza. I need to do something else that doesn't require English. So I was like, at that point, I turned my hobby to like my profession. I've never done nothing else but work with dogs or talk about dogs.
I love. How many years, Jorge? How many years?
Well, I believe that I've been living in New York for about 26 years.
Wow. So 26 years of grooming.
That's how long I've been.
So you've seen the entire industry, like when it was like low end grooming to expensive. Because sometimes people are shocked by how much it costs to groom a dog. Chanel has a doodle. What would you charge? What's doodle prices in New York?
A minute.
I don't know. Listen, prices are different. Go from groomer to groomer. I've been working a long time. I wrote them. We haven't talked about my book yet. That is the best. That is the most successful grooming book in history. It's translated on 7 different languages all over the world, and it's a step-by-step dog grooming book. So
Jorge,
I did
is
a
your
bunch
book
of
available
TV
on
shows.
Kindle?
So I'm more
For
expensive.
listeners?
Right, and groomers are probably like hairdressers. Depending on who your hairdresser is, you may pay a lot more than another hairdresser because you have more experience and you have more exposure. So I'm pretty sure it's probably similar to how there's a big difference in price ranges for hairdressers. It's probably the same
Correct.
for groomers.
Jorge,
doesn't mean that I'm better than other groomers. There are tons of like great groomers. I'm just lucky and smart enough to have positioned myself on with certain clients where I get to charge 5 times more than the regular groomer.
So Jorge, I have a grooming question. Actually, one of the listeners has a question. Sammy Neck wanted to know if you have a dog that has allergies, do you recommend a certain dog shampoo for that dog?
Yes, there are plenty of hypoallergenic shampoos for dogs. I had good experience with shampoos that they're based with an eucalyptus scent. I kind of like that because the shampoos that they're not scented at all, to me, I don't need to smell clean.
Yes, I have to smell like my dog. Exactly.
Yeah, I want Billy to smell like something.
I want to know that.
He's a sneeze-a-thon. He goes through sneeze-a-thon, and I put on lotion and stuff.
Yeah, so you gotta be like careful about, but I found that shampoos that they're based on eucalyptus or mint or peppermint, they make the dog look fresh and they're less, they're more hypoallergenic. But there are a lot of brands. Yeah.
I have a coconut shampoo that I use on my dog that he loves, and it smells really good, and it works well for his
The
coat.
pet industry is huge. The amount of shampoos nowadays, that's like when they used to say, oh, you gotta groom your dog every 6 months. It's because the pet industry didn't have that many shampoos that they have now for like, regular use, hypoallergenic use, all kind of different, like white dogs, black dogs, there are all kind of shampoos now. So you need to tune in to the right shampoo, but there are a lot of like good hypoallergenic shampoo.
Jorge, I want to go back to what I asked earlier. So I know that there's groomers can vary from a Petco groomer to the person that's grooming in their basement to like groomers. Like for example, I know that a groomer like Chanel, like when you bring your dog to a groomer, it's not unheard of for a person to pay up to like $200 to $300 for even like a German Shepherd or a Poodle, as low as my friend who the highest he might charge is like $35 to $45. But Jorge, can you just talk about that too? Because sometimes people are even shocked when a person charges, like for example, here for us, if you have a German Shepherd, we're going to charge anywhere from $75 or higher. And sometimes people are like, oh, why isn't this like $30, $40? Like Petco. Can you just, because I want people to understand the pricing, because grooming can be expensive depending upon the breed of dog that you have, and especially if you're using someone that's not a chain or big box like Petco or PetSmart.
Well, like at first, like due to like our economic war situation, it means that on big chain like Petco or PetSmart, you can find competitive groomers that they're working there part-time to get health benefits, for example. So then you can find groomers that they're really unqualified and they get jobs at, big companies because they do the inside training, and within, 4 weeks, at most, they put you to groom dogs, and those are the ones who will have accidents. So you have everything. That's why it is important you talk to the groomer. Do not go by, how fancy the salon is, but how qualified the groomer is. Grooming is something that it doesn't require certification in most states. So anybody can just grab a clipper and call himself a groomer. We are really trying to work against that because hairdressers need a certification. So anybody who works with sharp tools around any kind of living creature should be certified. So more than that, paying attention of how the salon looks like, you need to pay attention who's going to be working on your dog, because you will find the best groomer at this tiny little place in the middle of nowhere, or the best groomer anywhere. You got to talk to the groomer. And yes, prices, they depend a lot on what area of the country are you living in. Everybody needs grooming. Every dog needs grooming, and every groomer needs a job. So if I'm charging, for example, $300 an hour, like I charge in New York, but I work in Manhattan only, and if I move to, let's say, a state that the average income is much lower, but I just like the quality of life or whatever, I will have to charge accordingly of what is the average.
What's the average? What's the average?
A little bit more or low.
What's the price I'm picking because I find that fascinating because you're a celebrity groomer. You groomed Ralph Lauren's dog. You groomed P. Diddy's dog. I mean, your list is big, and so you are the man. That's why I want people to understand that we have the groomer on the phone. Like my friend, like in the hair, my friend Johnny who does Michelle Obama's hair. It's $700 per cut, and it's not just because it's Michelle Obama. When you see him cut, you're like, I didn't know scissors can move like that. So like I've been watching your videos, I've seen your resume, you're a beast. What could a person, because all grooming is not created equal. Like if a person wants a really top show cut for their poodle, what's the highest you've ever seen?
The highest price,
yeah,
is like $300 an hour. Yeah.
Okay. I know that. I just
$300 an hour, but you might have a poodle breeder who lives in the middle of on the countryside, outside, whatever state, and she lives there, and she has 20 dogs herself, but you're a neighbor who has a poodle, and she will give you like top quality grooming for maybe, $60. So it does all over. Like cities like New York, LA, and Miami are probably the most expensive cities to live with, and they're most expensive cities to get your dog groomed. That's the reality. One of my best friends, the lady who started me basically on grooming, on getting a job at a grooming shop here, she moved to Atlanta, and the outskirts of Atlanta. So her prices are lower than they used to be in New York, but her quality is the same.
Right. So, Jorge, I had a question, and it's less economic than it is cultural. And I appreciate that, the prices for Manhattan grooming are different than Lexington, Kentucky. But what's the cultural difference between dog owners in Manhattan and South America, Argentina? Are Americans radically different about dog ownership?
I believe that Americans are more over the top on everything, and that's not always a good thing. But
I agree with that.
But we are trendsetters. We're trendsetters. So whatever you see here at 100%, then it will trickle down to other countries like Argentina at a 60. Like here, people, you will see somebody. I have seen designers of dog dresses that they charge $4,000 or $5,000 for a dress for a dog. And I'm like, okay, that's the yearly income on somebody in a many country. So, but doesn't mean that the talent is less. So those trends will trickle down to everywhere in the world, and somebody will be making, a dog dress with a dress that their younger daughter doesn't wear no more. So they will be creative. So it's not always about how different we are. It's like the world look at us. Unfortunately, sometimes they're looking at us now, saying like, what the hell are you doing? But, historically, we are a country, the U.S., we are a country that we were an example of many fronts, and that included fashion. So that, go back, we are trendsetters. Whatever
Absolutely.
we do here,
right.
Eventually other countries will do.
Jorge, I want to ask you, I want to talk about two things before we end this show. One, I want to ask you about something personal, and I want to ask you about cats.
Cats.
Okay.
Which should we go first, personal or cats?
You choose.
Tammy, you
Get
choose.
the cats out the way first, because Jorge doesn't like cats anyway.
All right, let's get the cats out the way first. All right, Jorge, beyond popular belief, I'm a dog person, Greg's a dog person, but the secret that we have a battle of cats. So I got my cat, my gorgeous Himalayan, and Greg, the one upper that he is, had to go out and get a knockoff of my cat.
It's a ragdoll, which is a more trendy, popular breed than the Himalayan. But continue.
So my grooming cats is a whole nother world. Do you groom cats? And then two, is that something that you recommend for people to groom cats on their own? Because cats can get pretty feisty and they do all kind of crazy things if you get them in water.
Yes, I groom cats most of my grooming life. When I was working in a salon, I did groom cats. If you're talking about expensive, grooming cats rates are way more expensive.
Oh, grooming cats is not cheap.
That most, 90% of the cats, I don't know, 80% of the cats want they don't like to leave their house, most cats. So when you take them to the groomer, you know, they're really not happy. Plus, cats, they do believe they're better than us. You know, they're always like a bitchy wife. You know, I'm like, you just have to cater to them. You know, there's no way around. A dog is like us guys. You know, they're easy. You know, they're easy to treat. You give them a treat and like, we forgot about everything else. Like cats, no, cats hold the grudge. You know, cats will find a way. Yes.
That's where they got that term, she's acting catty, because that's how cats are.
Correct.
And Jorge,
so that's what is more important that you, like cats, you can rely on cat groomers as much because the cats won't enjoy it. So it is more important that you do take regular care and you brush your cats at home. And you should really never, like you can learn how to groom your dog at home. I can say that safely. Cat skin is like rice paper. You should not even try to shave your cat at home. That is definitely a very, very dangerous situation.
Because Jorge,
super thin.
grooming cats is dangerous too, right? You can cat scratches, cat bites. I mean, you can easily. I mean, I know people that have been hospitalized because of cats.
No, correct. Grooming cats is way more difficult than grooming dogs. You know, and that was the first thing I quit as soon as I was able to.
Right.
I was like, oh no, at the moment that I knew I had enough clientele of dogs that I could refuse to groom cats, I never touched them.
Jorge, how much would you charge me?
And I like them. I'm like, I don't say that I don't like cats. I just a dog person. I don't know you. When I grew up, it was no way that you had a dog and a cat household. The only time we had a cat at home was when one of my dogs brought it in his mouth. When dogs didn't like cats when I was growing up. This all like being nice with each other. That to me is a new world.
Oh,
because when I grew up, you either had dogs or you either had cats.
Right. Jorge, so for a Himalayan, my Himalayan in Manhattan, and I want you specifically to groom him, how much is that?
I don't groom cats, but they will start at $250 probably.
Yeah, that's the same out here in Chicago. Like Himalayan, $250. I know my friend, she's charging like $300 to groom a Himalayan. So there's anyone that wants to be a cat groomer, there's money out there. Tammy, I think that should be one of your new jobs, like your retirement job.
I know.
You should become a cat groomer.
You know what is the secret to brush them? You need to spritz, you need to have like a water bottle and spritz water on their coat because cat hair is very elastic. So when you mix them with water before you brush them, the mats come right out. If you put a couple drops of conditioner and a spray bottle with water and you spritz them around and then you brush them, the mats come much easier.
Wow. Yes. Jorge, I want to ask you some personal things. I've been cyber stalking you. Is this true that what I found about a stand-up comedy career? That you studied stand-up comedy?
Yes, I did workshops about it. I love, I love people, and I'm a funny guy. So I always wanted it to learn. And to be quite honest, before I did my first TV show, it was the grooming competition, right? And every other groomer, the 12 contestants, they took 6 weeks to learn the latest grooming techniques and this and that. I took 6 weeks to take acting classes and stand-up comedy classes because I was like, I need to be good TV. I'm like, I love that. TV. My skills are good. But I took 6 weeks of intensive acting classes and stand-up comedy because I was like, I need to be quick on my feet. Because I'm like, I'm already running with a couple of disabilities here. I'm like, I'm Latino, I got a thick accent. I'm like, I need to let these people like me. So I need to have a couple extra tricks to be on TV.
Jorge,
so, that's when I took class.
Jorge, for the listeners and viewers, what competition reality did you compete on? Just so they can check it out on check you out.
It was like a zillion years ago. It was on Animal Planet. It was called Groomer Has It.
I know.
And,
Can our viewers check that out somehow?
And I saw you on Groomer Has It, which that was I wish they hadn't taken that show off, because that was a very intense show, because I've been in the industry for 20 years, and then until I saw that show, I never realized how intense it is with grooming, because it's a super stressful job. I mean, I unfortunately, in 20 years, I've known groomers that have accidentally poked animals in the eye with the scissors, cut off ears. I know people that have extracted butts and gotten fecal matter in their mouth and been hospitalized. I mean, there's been bitten in the face.
Yeah.
I mean, grooming is like, there's a lot of stuff that can go wrong with grooming. So much respect to you. I want to ask you another question. Can you talk about, too, because you are a certified counselor for the Anti-Violence Project Hotline. Is that true?
Correct. Yeah, that was back in 97 that I got. I trained in New York to be a phone operator for the Gay and Lesbian Anti-Violence Project. So, I never knew how much those skills were going to be good for me for life in general. Because when you're working with dogs and you talk with the owners, it's like just now more than I do house calls. You're part counselor. Everybody has a problem.
Absolutely.
And everybody needs an ear to talk to, And I'm like, a lot of people, dogs are the greatest equalizers. Dogs don't care how famous or infamous are you. How hard, how bad you were treated outside. What are your problems? The dogs will just give you love unconditionally. So, a lot of people really, modern times like now, they have relied on their dogs a whole lot more than before. And so having that training, that I didn't do it for that purpose. I did it because I wanted it to help my community. But, it gave me the tools to be a good listener, even if I never shut up. I can listen to other people eventually.
That is so super amazing. Jorge, in closing, before we let you go, for all our listeners from around the world, everyone that's watching on Facebook, Instagram, Podbean, all our different 14 platforms, can you give a person maybe 3 things that they should look for when picking their groomer?
Well, feel the vibe. Feel how you and your dog react to the groomer. It's somebody who is going to be working with a member of your family. So think like you checking for somebody to, like when you interview a teacher or a babysitter
or a
to take
doctor
care of your children. Correct. So the process of finding a good dog groomer, it should be paying attention. Don't just go online and book an appointment with somebody you don't like. Meet them and see how your dog feel about it, and then ask for certifications. Ask to see where they learn how to groom. What is their experience? Nowadays, nobody has an excuse not to have pictures of the work they have done, and then check the salon. I'm like, the salon should be kept as clean as your hair salon. You should be expecting the same hygiene from your dog groomer that you expect from your hairdresser. Yes. So, if somebody doesn't let you see where they work, I would think it twice. If we have grown, we know better that not to be living, you wouldn't leave your kid or your nephew on somebody's doorstep and say, okay, I'm picking it up in 5 hours without knowing where they're going to be. I just feel that we need to be proactive on the groomer certification, on the hygiene of the place, and on like our all around feeling about it, you know.
I agree. That's so on point. I thank you. This is so super informative. When are you going back to me? When are you leaving the mountains?
No, I go back home every Monday and come back on every Thursday. So, yeah.
about everything.
That is so awesome.
Think about.
Well, I want to thank Jorge.
Thank you, Jorge.
Yes, thank you, Jorge, for all your
Thanks, Tammy.
Thank you, Tammy. Thank you, listeners. Go out there, find yourself a groomer, because I love what Jorge said. It's a way of showing love to your animal. Because I thought about that. Gorillas groom each other. The lions groom each other. Go groom somebody. Love somebody. It's Saturday. Have a fun day. I'm the Wolfkeeper. Catch us tomorrow, 11 a.m. for another fun podcast, broadcast. I'm yours, Toriano Sanzoni. Ciao, Bella. Thank y'all.
Go Bello.
Yes. Happy Saturday.